They have gone 5 of 18 in their last 23 games and just fired head coach Doug Pederson. What comes more shocking is the fact that they retained GM Trent Baalke. I mean, this guy has hired and fired 4 coaches. Now he's on his way to this 5th. I mean, Richard, he hired Urban Meyer, for goodness gracious, and survived that hiring and firing. This says one prominent source said that it's effing insane that they kept Trent Baalke because they faced so many challenges last coaching search because no one wanted a coach under him. A prominent coaching candidate for the Jaguars just told Sports Illustrated, for the Jaguars to change direction, you have to actually change direction. Retaining Trent Baalke greatly diminishes my interest in that job. Lots of promise, but the same roadblocks. Richard, how in the world does this happen?
I really don't know. I don't know. But that's why dysfunction stays in that franchise, because it's like, I don't know what he has. I mean, even when he was with San Francisco, it's like you hired and fired a bunch of coaches and you survived somehow, when it's like you're the one making the personnel decisions. And like Tom Sula, no offense to him, but he was a head coach. And like after that, it's like, just like in New York, I don't see how the GM still has a job after the whole Saquon situation played out. And we saw on Hard Knocks what you were saying, the decisions you made, what went into your decisions, the thought process. And now you get rid of Daniel Jones and you don't have Saquon. That's usually the person that gets fired. Now, do I think Daboll should have a job? I do. I think he's a good coach. I think he just has been given shit personnel, and that's not going to work. In this situation, I think they've drafted relatively well. Brian Thomas is having a great year. Travis Etienne, like a lot of the guys they've drafted, have done pretty good. They've got good players. Josh Allen is a good player to D-line. They get pass rush. But when it comes to the head coaches, he's not made great decisions. So, and now they're like, oh, he's gonna report straight to the owner, not to the GM. And it's like, what? It just sounds like a really messy situation that won't end well. And again, everybody knows how I feel about Trevor Lawrence and the things that he's done. It's going to stunt his growth, whatever growth there was, and it's going to continue to allow them to have an excuse of why he's not producing in the way he should. I don't expect him to have another good season, because they'll say, oh, new offensive coordinator, new scheme, new coach, all this, and it won't be a great coach, because no great coaches are going to take this job, because nobody wants to deal with Trent Baalke. Like, why would you want to be associated with him? It's going to be a desperate first-time head coach that's like, hey, man, I can't get any other job. I just want to get my foot in the door, and they're going to take this job, and it's going to be unfortunate because they have talent, no doubt about it. Trent Baalke isn't the answer, and he shouldn't be the answer, but they keep hiring him, and I don't understand why. I don't understand what he's shown to continue to get jobs this way, but who am I? I'm just a guy on a podcast talking, apparently.
The Seahawks have fired their OC, Ryan Grubb, after his first season. He was hired from the Washington Huskies and really was underwhelming with the Seattle Seahawks. They were 21st in scoring and 28th in rushing. You think this was the right move? I mean, I know they were battling injuries with K9 being out for the bulk of the season, but you only give a guy 1 year. You think this is the right strategy for them?
No, I don't. But, who am I? I'm just a humble servant. I just don't understand you hire a first-time NFL offensive coordinator and then are surprised when he has first-year offensive coordinator struggles. I think this is one of those situations where he could have looked into the offseason, got better, understood, hey, the offensive line was banged up. We weren't running it well, but you got to stick to the run game, improve, and then come back and be better the next year. I feel like there's so many knee-jerk reactions, and it's like it takes a second. It takes a second to adjust to the NFL. And I think, there used to be a time where patience was shown with coordinators and coaches. And that's why people are like, you want to go into coaching? I'm like, no, because if things don't go great the first time, they're going to be ready to fire me. They're like, will you be a D coordinator? Like, I'm not sure. Maybe later, but I know first sign of trouble, people want you to get fired. And like, if you don't walk into a great situation or a situation where everybody plays up to their standard or everybody stays healthy or everybody makes the plays that you draw up, then it won't go great for you. So it's unfortunate. I'm sure they'll find somebody that they feel good about, because you definitely have to run the ball more in this league. But obviously K9 got hurt. The offensive line wasn't opening a lot of gaps, and maybe they felt schematically they wanted to go in a different direction. Maybe they want to go outside zone, mid zone, and maybe he was doing, something that they didn't agree with. But I just feel like there's not enough patience shown in this league to allow people to improve. You know, if you got a rookie player and say, "Oh man, he's not an All Pro in his first year," get rid of him. It's like no, like let him get to the off season, let him work, train, improve, watch the tape, and see year two, see the jump. And if you can't do that with anything, then I think these franchises are gonna have hard time growing. But they were 21st in scoring, like you said, 28th in rushing. So you could see the numbers not being what they wanted to. But at the end of the day, it's his first time calling games in the National Football League. It's a different game than he's used to.
Well, another coordinator taking some heat is defensive coordinator for the hat you're wearing, the San Francisco 49ers, and that's Nick Sorensen. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers, their identity has been their lockdown defense, and they were number third in points allowed in 2023, and now they're 29th in 2024. Richard, Nick Bosa was quoted saying, "It's not my decision whether the 49ers should keep Nick Sorensen or not." What do you make of this? Do you think they should make a change? I mean, Robert Saleh's out there, Rich. Do you go back to what was good? I mean, all gas, no brakes, Robert Saleh, or do you stick with Nick Sorensen?
I mean, nostalgia always feels like, I'm sure the fans will say that man, we did so good. We went to the Super Bowl with Salah. Like, I want to see that again. Like, bring that back. Because you always remember the good and you have a hard time remembering the bad things that happened. And but I think a number of things affected the performance of the defense. I think injuries, to key players. Hargrave was hurt early in the season. Bosa got hurt for a while. Obviously, they came into the season and without Greenlaw, and his replacements didn't play up to the level that he plays. Talanoa Hufanga missed a lot of time this season. So then you have Charvarius Ward miss, with a very serious family matter that happened. So there were so many variables that really affected the performance of this defense. It's hard. It's hard to call great defense in this league. I would understand it both ways. I'd understand if they kept him. I'd understand if they got rid of him. But I really think it's a lot of variables that need to be considered when talking about the full picture. And again, it's not all black and white. And you're not just gonna, hey, we fired him, we're going to hire the next guy, and he's going to come in here, and it's going to be a number one top 5 defense. Could it be? Yes. Do you need to change some of these pieces out? And personnel-wise, you need a weak side linebacker. You need somebody else next to Fred Warner. And if it's going to be Dre Greenlaw coming into the season next year healthy, he makes a big difference in the way this defense is. Talanoa Hufanga makes a big difference in the communication at the safety position. There was some missed tackles throughout the season, some busts throughout the season that just were uncharacteristic of a San Francisco 49ers defense. So I don't think they look out very far outside. If they do, I think Robert Saleh or some coaches that they've had before that are familiar with Kyle Shanahan and the systems that he brings. But I think they'll be fine next year. I think it's just a bad year overall.
Well, Richard, one of the bigger names entering this coaching cycle is the Detroit Lions OC Ben Johnson. And I'm just here to tell you, the guy's no good. No team should pursue him. Just let him be in Detroit. You don't want Ben Johnson. But Richard, fortunately or unfortunately for us Lions fans, Ben Johnson is going to be one of the most sought after head coaches this offseason. We already broke down the Chicago Bears and that job. And you said it was your favorite coaching vacancy for Ben Johnson or another coach to land. That some things changed yesterday with Jerod Mayo getting let go. The New England Patriots job's an interesting one. You got a young quarterback in Drake May. You got a high draft pick this year again. Do you still view it as the same? Is Chicago still the most desirable location if you're Ben Johnson? Now, keep in mind, Rich, Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson are very close. Like, do you see Ben Johnson staying in the division, or do you think he gives Dan Campbell a courtesy and goes somewhere like New England just to get out of the conference in the division?
If Dan Campbell's his friend, then he wants him to take the best job he can take so he can have the ultimate success as a head coach. The talent level difference between the Bears and the Patriots is astronomical right now. It's not in the same ballpark, not in the same trajectory. And, obviously it's the toughest division. I don't think Tennessee's a great job. I don't think Jacksonville, we just talked about Jacksonville. I don't think that's a great job to take. If the Las Vegas job comes up, it's okay. But the Bears job is the most ready now team of all the teams that'll have new head coaches. And if you want to be able to make an instant impact where it is just, hey, scheme or get the quarterback on the right track or just a few pieces here and there, or, the D coordinators on the right track, and then you go to Chicago Bears. I don't think the Patriots is an attractive team and attractive for a number of reasons, because clearly they want to give the job to Vrabel, and it's his job to lose. And that's the kind of culture. Their fan base is so used to a certain way of talking, a certain way of coaching, a certain way of dealing with the media, dealing with your players, and that's all they know. And it's shown a tremendous amount of success. So that's all they're going to understand, and that's all they're going to accept. And so there is no other way of coaching or a coaching style that you'd be like, oh yeah, they'll probably accept this, because it's not a talented enough team to win. So they want to see the things that they're used to seeing, even if they're not winning. They want to see a coach go up there and take accountability, but be rugged, be tough, be hard nosed, team go out there and play hard, disciplined. They don't talk a lot to the media. You know what I mean? It's just a real weird situation. But I don't think they'll get great coach candidates because of that, because there's a certain stereotype associated with the New England Patriots right now, and it's just been further emphasized with the firing of Jerod Mayo.
Yeah, it's wild. They only gave him 1 year, and now, but like you said, I think they're focused on Mike Vrabel, and I think this is his job to lose. I'd be shocked if they gave it to anybody else. But we shall see. I mean, Richard, in terms of Ben Johnson, obviously Detroit's focused on one thing, and that's winning the Super Bowl. Ben Johnson, is there any distraction that goes on in-house if he's being contacted by other teams to interview with them? I know when you guys were making your runs in San Francisco, Robert Saleh was one of the hottest names on the coaching circuit. Was it a distraction for you guys at all with that going on?
Not at all. I mean, the same is true with Dan Quinn. When we went to back-to-back Super Bowls with Seattle Seahawks, it's not a distraction for the player, or at least it wasn't for me. I can't speak for everybody. And because you got the bye week, you got your own stuff going on. We know, a rising tide lifts all ships. And if you're playing well and you're doing well and you're winning and your culture's winning and your team's playing well, then your coaches should get opportunities. You want those things for him. And so he was incredibly prepared every week. He still was managing us the same way, still was doing all the things necessary for us to have the success we need to have. So there's no problem, I don't think, for anybody. I think, as these players, Ben Johnson did everything in his power to come back for another year because he felt like there was unfinished business. So I think there's a certain respect and regard there and an appreciation for him staying an extra year to get this done. So I think that on top of that, I think the players appreciate that he's here in the first place and won't be distracted. They're happy for him.